That will not be happening. The things we go through to bring music to the people. I couldn't believe it. Oh, I don't know. Maybe not everybody. Whatever that means. Lead Balloon's my new record. It's my second one. It's coming out August 30th. It's kind of been a long process. It's been almost 3 years since my first record. I think when you're on the road a lot, for me anyway, it's a little more difficult to write when you're traveling. So I've kind of spent the last, year and a half, couple years on and off writing the new record and making it. And so I'm really excited to finally get it out there. This recording process was really amazing for me. Working with my producer, I learned so much. I spent a lot of time in the studio and met a lot of really unbelievable musicians who taught me something pretty much every day. I never walked away from the studio not learning something new. And I think that was probably my favorite part about making this record. I think Lead Balloon is one of my favorite songs on the record. Can't Go Back is probably another one. I mean, they're all my babies. I love all of the songs, but I definitely have a few standouts for me that I love performing so much, and those are two of them. I haven't performed all the songs, but I've performed some of the songs from the record, definitely. I think that's part of the process for me, is trying out new material and seeing how people connect to it, but mostly seeing how I connect to it being on stage. That's usually a really good way to test out whether or not a song is going to be something that I want to continue to play out live at shows, because we have to go out there and play the same songs every single night. And, if I really enjoy performing a song, I know that it feels right. I wrote in a lot of different places. I wrote the record in Nashville. I spent some time in London. I wrote probably half of it in Los Angeles. And then I wrote here. So I think that wherever you are will leak into what you're writing, but then also whatever you're going through, and then obviously, whoever you're working with. I think from my first record, you can kind of hear me already leaning towards some country feel and some Americana feel, and that's definitely something that's really near to my heart. And then, some of this stuff is a little bit poppier, and I wouldn't really describe myself as folky. People do, but I wouldn't describe myself as that, but I guess it makes sense to other people, so I kind of sit in that folk, country, pop genre, whatever that means these days. Yeah, I think that this record is, I think every song sounds very different from the last, and it kind of is very clear in different genres. Making the record in LA was cool. I grew up in Los Angeles. I've been living in New York for 10 years now, and generally have said, I don't think I could ever live in LA again. And this experience actually kind of changed that, because people would be on Twitter like, oh my gosh, it's so freezing cold in New York. And for years I was like, I'm not going to spend the winter in New York this year. And finally, I spent 4 months in Los Angeles while everyone was kind of suffering through this crazy cold winter, and I was in 70-degree weather every day. And I didn't feel so guilty about it. No, I really loved it. And I was doing what I love, which really helps as well. So it was great. It was actually a really amazing experience being in LA this time. I'm going on tour with Jason Reeves, which I'm really excited about. He's amazing, and he's putting out a new record as well. So I think it's going to be sort of exciting for both of us, because we both waited a while to put out our records. And we start August 21st in Nashville. Really excited about Iowa, because that's where Jason's from, so I think that's going to be a really awesome experience. I'm really excited about going back to Lawrence, Kansas. And Lawrence is kind of a gem that a lot of people don't know about, and you discover once you start touring, because they have a venue there called the Bottleneck, and singer-songwriters usually go through there, and we discovered that venue a couple years ago, and it's just such an awesome town. It's got a really great feel to it. And I'm really excited about Nashville just because I have so many friends there and I love playing that town. So I think with this record, you know, I want to be on the East Coast and the West Coast and also cross over and go to Europe. My first two musical loves, is kind of funny to admit, but were Tina Turner and Sade. Probably because that's what my mom was listening to when I was like 2 years old and exposed to it a lot. So, but I grew up listening to a lot of different stuff. My parents had a very varied taste in music, and so did I. So I'm listening to a lot of non-singer-songwriter stuff these days, which is funny because here I'm promoting myself as a singer-songwriter, but because that's all I do, and it's kind of all I've listened to probably in the last like 4 or 5 years, I've kind of been, venturing out and listening to a lot of other stuff as well. I said this earlier today to somebody, and I will say it again, I'm completely obsessed with Robin. It's like all I'm listening to right now. So when people ask me who my influences are, I'm like, I don't know, did I ever listen to anything but Robin? I'd want to collaborate with Robin. I mean, who else, really? Robin is basically the answer to every question you will ask me today. Yeah. It's mostly just that basically I haven't found a record that has made me want to dance as much as this one has in a long time. So I pretty much every morning wake up and dance by myself at home to the Robin record. Which is good. It's a good way to start the day. I would love to tour with Ray LaMontagne. He's one of my favorites. I've said that for years. I would love to open for him or, play shows with him. Playing for people, it really is amazing. You go and you play shows and then people come up to you and tell you how your music has affected them. I'll never stop being surprised at the stories that people tell me and thankful for it too, because the only reason that I get to continue doing what I do is because of them. I know that sounds cheesy, but it's totally true.
You got the loudest bar, but you got
the record release will be in New York. I'm super excited. It's going to be at Bowery Ballroom. Yeah, which is, for any musician that lives here, that's kind of one of the ultimate venues. Ian Axel and the Spring Standards will also be playing. So it's going to be a really awesome show. I'm super excited.
You're like the foam I can never iron out of my shirt. Sometimes I wonder